Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Hari Om. Hari Om, O ye beautiful people. We are here today celebrating Women's Day, and one of the topics given for discussion is what is balance, how to find balance in life, in work, in family, meaning in the familial, the professional, and the societal realms in which we live in this waking world. So I think one of our first questions typically is, what is balance? You know, whenever typically somebody is asked a question of what is balance, how do I balance my life? One of the answers that is usually given is, or that is first given, is about time management. You know, I want to balance it, meaning I want, and it's almost like, you know, let me have 33% for this and 33% for this and 33% for this, so that everything is even. Everything is evenly matched in accordance with the time that I am giving, the dedication which I am applying in all of these realms of familial, societal, and professional. And in that, when we say what is balance, we are actually thinking of it as a measured percentage. But we have to consider, is that really the definition that we want to follow? Is that really the understanding that we want to follow of what is balance? Because then maybe I've got 33.33% of stress in familial life and 33.33% of stress in societal life, and then 33.33% in professional life. Yeah, that's pretty even. And definitely not helpful. So when we're looking for balance, I think it's important to understand that we're not talking about merely time management with misery all around. So I think one thing that becomes important to understand is that balance is peace. And that's PEA, not where I am in pieces, where I'm split into pieces, where I'm categorized into pieces, but where there is peace, harmony, there is a stability all around. And in Vedantic terms, one of the easiest ways to understand it is to have a predominantly sattvic life that is abiding in sattva, where outside situations are not able to disturb or to move the mind away from that sattva. That is a better way of thinking of balance. It's that kind of balance is the kind of balance that you think about when you think about a rubber band. You know, you have the rubber band that's way too tight, you have a rubber band that's way too loose, and you have a rubber band that's just right. It's like Goldilocks, just right. Like everything that she touches, wherever she goes, everything the baby bear has, everything is just right because it's Goldilocks and it's a baby bear. Of course, for Mama Bear, you know, that level is not just right. It's different. So we have to find where in, you know, how to develop that kind of sattva that gives us that kind of balance in life, where we don't feel like we are discontent, whether it's familial, whether it's professional, whether it's societal, where we have that art, not of time management only, but more so of the desire, the art of desire management. You know, there's a story that I remember. There's a documentary wherein a surfer is talking about his life, and he got into competitive surfing. And he got into competitive surfing with an entire group of friends. And those friends were, you know, when they were not into competitions, they were always supporting each other, inspiring each other, pushing each other, you know, to their higher potential. And when they got into competition, there were certain things that very subtly started changing. And this one guy for his entire life was trying to win the, you know, you might say like the World Cup of surfing. And no matter what he did, there was just never a year where he was able to make it. And every single time it would just rile him and eat him from the inside. One of his friends used to say, it was miserable for me just to watch his misery because it was just eating at him, you know, so much. And it was an epiphany that he had where in one day he just said, you know what? I'm not going to get it. and he just let it go. And it was that one day, that one moment that he said, I'm not going to get it. It's all right. Let it go. And he gave he said something really beautiful, which I thought was so powerful when you really go through it to be able to say what you mean and mean what you say. He said, it's not about what you do. It's about who you are. And he said, I've seen people who got third place, who were ecstatic and jumping all over. And then I saw the guy who got first place, and he was still discontent and dissatisfied with what he had. So who was the one who really had success here? Who was the one who was finding balance in his life here? Because these people in our own mind, when we are put into situations like that, we try to change who we are, thinking that there's going to be a better way, something different that I need to do, seeing something else, somebody else's success, and defining your life and your success and your experiences, comparing it with somebody else and wanting somebody else's. So then comes the question of, okay, if balance is about sattva, if balance is about finding that peace within, and it's not just that, I think it's really important not to just make it a fluffy statement about thinking of, oh, we should be centered, to really understand what that means to be centered is something that we really have to dive deep in order to become more introvert and recognize and discover for ourselves what that centeredness really is, how it makes me feel, whether I want it. Because so much of our life has been so conditioned that we think that being off kilter or off center is supposed to be something, that's really dynamic and exciting, and it's something happening in my life. And then you grow up and you wonder, is that really what it was about and what it should be about? So it's one thing to say, it's one thing to understand what is balance. Now the question is, where you dive deeper and we ask ourselves, well, how do I know whether my life is in balance? How do I know? Like, is it that one day that I woke up on the right side of the bed by mistake? Like, what is it? How is it that I know, oh, this is the day? And then is every day supposed to be a copycat day? Like, is every day supposed to be this, oh, now I'm in balance, and tomorrow I'm going to be in balance better, or I'm going to be in balance the same? Or I didn't have what I had yesterday, so clearly now which one is it? Is it this one that's balanced? Is it that one that's balanced? Is it a different kind? So, for me to understand and to give that idea of what is balance and whether my life is in balance, I think one very great master, when we were studying in the ashram, he said, if you can lay your head down on the pillow and you are absolutely fine with saying, God, if you take me now, it's all right. Then, you kind of know that you're fulfilled. So that balance is very much about that, not just a sense or a feeling of fulfillment, because if it's just a feeling, feelings will come and go. So it's tapping into something much deeper. And how do I know that our life is in balance? Puja Gurudev, when he describes sattva, he says that the mind, a sattvic mind, is that which is quiet, alert, and vigilant. Quiet mind that is serene, but it's not asleep. An alert mind that is able to bring in anything to improve, anything that's good, whether it's through the paths of karma, bhakti, jnana, but that alertness to be able to bring in something good. Vigilant, to be able to remove what's not good, the negativities, the flaws that we have, to be able to correct them in that way, to be able to remove them. So this, comes to apply in all fields, whether it's home, whether it's work, whether it's society. And how do I know comes back to the question of, okay, do I have a life plan? In the sense that, am I living a life plan? In the sense, in Dharma Shastra, right, we have we have something called Jivancharya, where we have 4 ashramas. So am I living according to those ashramas? Like, am I really proceeding along that line? Which way is my path? And then the question comes of, that's an entire life plan. Where is my dina? How is my dinacharya? Like, what is my daily routine like? And in that daily routine, is it a life that is sensitive, that is compassionate, that is beautiful, that is creative? What kind of life? Puja Guruji, in his book, in his little, he has writings on dharma so beautifully. He says, we neglect doing what we should be doing. We spend a lot more time doing unimportant things. And then, I mean, he didn't say this, I'm saying this, that it takes forever, as in all the time that we are trying to catch up on the things that we should have been doing. So it's literally like running, we're just constantly running. And the question comes, are we doing the right things? And are our actions divinized? So if we're talking about balance and becoming or finding more sattva in our life, what is the number? I think for me, when I, in these studies, in spiritual studies, the number one way of becoming sattvic, I mean, hands down, there's no question, for those who are predominantly bhakti oriented, at least for me, it was like a number one answer is God's name, period. Remembrance of God, period. So, but when we live life, for a lot of people, especially grahastas, they have, there's so many different responsibilities that they feel like they feel as if they're being overpowered or overwhelmed by them at many times. And in our life, what is the easiest way to understand what it means to be sattvic and to actually transform our life into that way? Because every single time this is where our jivancharya, our dinacharya, our daily routine makes such a big difference, to have that ability, to have that discipline, of I'm going to plan my day out and this is what I'm going to do and this is what I'm going to do, because it creates such a calmness in the mind that we know where to go next. It's not just a random, haphazard, chaotic, anywhere, everywhere scene. And one of the greatest ways, as in any stage of life, meaning in any jivancharya, whether it's brahmacharya ashram, whether it's grahastha ashram, whether it's vanaprastha ashram or sannyasa ashram, one of the most beautiful ways to maintain that sattva, we are told, is to do your dharma. It is dharma shastra that shows the art of desire management. And it is that art of desire management by which this practice of dharma brings us not only outer prosperity, but also inner unfoldment. And this doesn't, typically our idea of, oh yeah, outer prosperity, that's fantastic. That means, if I practice my dharma, somebody's going to just, snap their fingers or, drop some magic fruits from a tree and I'm going to get this and this and this and this. That clearly is not desire management. So it's not going to work if that's going to be our idea of, oh, outer prosperity. That's exactly what I was looking for. It's a very, it's a change in vision. It's a change in the way we think and the way we do things. So in this definition of, then we come to understand, or we come to ask, well, then what is dharma? So dharma is dharyate anena iti dharma. That which supports is dharma. So what does support mean here? That which supports, as in that which supports, harmonizes, nourishes, integrates, unites, that which sustains, harmonizes, everything good. It's that feel good. And a lot of times when we understand dharma as duties, because they are, when we understand it as duties, we tend to really, really shirk away from the definition that was just given now, that it is that which supports and nourishes and integrates and unites. We look upon our duties pretty much as a burden, something I have to do. Duty is always something I have to do. And this is where the conflict comes in, because that mind, which is not in a sattvic state, is literally just going to say to us, I don't feel like it. And if I don't feel like it, why should I have to follow it? You know, and this is where lines and teachings from the Upanishads about Shreyas versus Preyas come in really, really handy. They help tremendously, you know, in understanding that there might be things that seem difficult or that feel difficult in the short run, but in the long run, there's something really healthy. And frankly speaking, I've always thought, you know, that rishis who have taken so much time, you know, to put all this down, just to teach us. I mean, they had no motive of, you know, no selfish motive in doing this. So imagine that if so many had said the same thing, how important it should be that even if we don't understand it or fully believe or fully whatever, you know, let's experiment. Let's at least try, because we've gone in so many different directions that it would be worth trying. And the one thing I think to me that's so beautiful is that in, you know, when we read Shastra, I wasn't born in India. So it was something really amazing that I wasn't exposed to daily. I wasn't exposed to Hindu scriptures and prayers and this and this. Like, you know, it just didn't happen like that. So one of the things that I found so fascinating when I was in college, and that was my first real introduction to Hindu philosophy, was that, oh my gosh, everything is so logical. It makes so much sense. You know, so when those definitions, even the understanding of dharma, like in Manusmriti, dharma is said to be fourfold. You know, and these make so much sense. Dharma is fourfold in the sense that there is samanya dharma. So samanya dharma is eternal truths, you know, that it bestows all good on all people. Like it's good for everybody. Something, eternal values that are good for everybody, something like honesty, you know, to always be truthful. So actually, very specifically in Dharma Shastra, there's like a little list of, you know, what would be eternal values that are the same for everyone. And that list is, you know, we're like, oh yeah, I want to know, because now if I practice these, hey, scot-free, man, life is good. Life is in balance. So what are these? These are fortitude, forgiveness, control of all 10 sense organs, as in the organs of action, the organs of perception, not stealing, to have cleanliness inside and out, to have discrimination, to have good, right knowledge that takes place, and to have mastery over anger. And you got a balanced life. That's it. Just these little points. That's it. And we think to ourselves, well, now, if I had that, obviously there wouldn't be a question of what is balance in life. So again, our scriptures remind us that these eternal values, you know, we look at them and we say, oh my goodness, so difficult. You know, it's just because we haven't practiced something constantly. We haven't practiced something in depth. So it feels like second nature. But that doesn't mean that it's not something that can be attained, you know, for ourselves. And the truth is that bliss that we feel, that joy that we feel when we do practice any of these, is just so meaningful and so significant and so deep in our life that it actually makes us want to be more of that. You know, it's not that all of a sudden balance just appears. It's something that just like, you know, seeps into our life. I remember somebody a spiritual student giving a very beautiful example of how oil seeps onto a cloth. You know, it's just a drop, but then it spreads. So that kind of beauty. So in those fourfold dharma, in Manusmriti, it is given of Samanya Dharma, then it is said about Asamanya Dharma. So Asamanya Dharma is like values that one follows because of one's special gifts, you know, special talents or possessions. Like there are two examples that Puja Guruji gives where he says, small, like, you know, the bigger guy is the bodyguard for the smaller guy, not the other way around. Typically. And then it's like the richer man who pays more taxes than the middle class person. So meaning the affluent class pays more taxes. So that kind of asamanya dharma, where it is values that one follows because of special gifts or talent or things they own. Then you have vishesha dharma. Vishesha dharma is values that one follows because of one's societal position or profession. Like, you know, you always have the royal family that has the duty to welcome dignitaries and to host certain events at the palace or wherever, because they're the ones who have to welcome the dignitaries to the country. And simply put, you know, simply vishesha dharma is teachers should teach, students should study. You know, not where the student thinks he knows everything, like every 13-year-old to 15 to 17-year-old student, et cetera, in that way. So that is Vishesha Dharma. So Samanya Dharma, Asamanya Dharma, Vishesha Dharma, and then Apad Dharma. Apad Dharma is, emergency situation, emergent circumstances. The norm is not followed because these are extenuating circumstances. Something like soldiers, you know, down in the field, typically whenever you perform an operation, you give an anesthetic and you're in a place, you can't do anything, it's an emergency, you do the operation without the anesthetic. So it's not that, you know, you've committed a crime or something. This is apadharma. You had to do what you had to do. It's same thing, like Puja Guruji gives this example where he says, he speaks about young people, you know, who typically are supposed to be students who are supposed to be studying, but there are times when young people end up, in order to protect their country, they end up going to war. If there is a war that comes upon the country, that student gives up his dharma of studies and takes on going to war, because that is apat dharma. These are emergent circumstances, extenuating circumstances. So in this, the idea of, you know, what is dharma? The idea is dharma is not boring. It is that which is, you know, it's not meant to be stoic, where I have a boring, regular life all the time. It is that which is fulfilling, that which is relaxing. You know, when we look at that which is thought-freeing, that which is energizing, not exciting, energizing. So in this inspiration, in this beauty, you know, we can't constantly look at everything as, oh my gosh, it's such a challenge, such a hurdle to overcome. How am I going to do this? It's not about, I'm never going to get fortitude. I'm never going to get forgiveness. How am I supposed to remember what my dharma is at what time? So when we have that vision that we want to change, that we want to find that balance, we will have that way. We will find that way. There is absolutely no question about it. The last thing that I want to say or just mention is, you know, we always wonder how we're going to get there and what that process is. One of the most simplest and beautiful ways I had read, which was in Puja Guruji's booklet on Dharma. He says, he gives 6 steps, you know, 6 points, 6 steps of practicing this Dharma. And he says, number 1, give up illegitimate desires. As in, don't want other people's wealth. Like, you know, don't want everything that somebody else has. Don't compare. Don't desire for illegitimate desire, meaning stealing, going and getting it for, for yourself. The other is don't fulfill legitimate desires by illegitimate means. This is like the Robin Hood style of something, a little bit, in the sense that I can't say, oh, I'm trying to do the best for my family, therefore whatever and anything I do is okay. So if I need to, if I want to give my family a better life or let my kids enjoy some cartoons, I'm going to go steal the TV from the neighbor. That can't happen. So don't fulfill legitimate desires by illegitimate means. Then fulfill legitimate desires by legitimate means, which means work hard. Everybody's got to work hard. The college student, says how difficult life is. The middle-aged, housewife says how difficult life is. The elderly person whose body is starting to decay says how difficult life is. There's so many difficulties all along the way, but our mind, our acceptance of everything that is happening is so key, is so crucial. Then he says, perform selfless actions. Those selfless actions, the ability to perform charitable actions, the ability to be compassionate, the ability to know the joy of giving versus taking. Those selfless actions are actually done if we've never done it before, then yeah, this is the time to try. And it's not just about selfless action, let our circle of support hopefully gets bigger and bigger, so that whatever we can do in our small way, we do. And to me, the most, the last two actually are the two most important points. The fifth point is divinize your actions, which means in anything and everything that you do, remember God. Offer everything you do to God, because then even the mistakes that you might make will at least lead you to rise instead of remain fallen. That joy of offering everything to God, to be as a child with God, is something that is literally in our life, literally saving grace. And the last that he says, the sixth point, is to seek the highest in life. And that is not about, to become a Nobel laureate or a Rhodes Scholar or the best cardio, peds physician in the world. It is very much to seek God, to seek and know what is our purpose in life and what is the ultimate goal of life, and to attain it. Because Pujya Gurudev says, to know the self is our birthright. It is that which we are already. So it's just a matter of discovering, realizing that we are. Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.